so I'm back now. I'm back, in this, this two-bedroom, one bathroom apartment with my, wife and daughter. We're kind of struggling financially at the time. Um, so I'm like, I'm sort of in, I'm in an odd state because I'm trying to take all this in, just the block of bliss, back in my physical self. And when you get back in your physical self, it's like this world is so it's hard to describe. It's like there's all these made up rules and ideas, and none of that makes sense when you're in like this the bliss of Christ. And so I get to work, and the paralegal's sitting there, and he's like, "Hey, Bill, how you doing?" I'm like, "I'm all right." And she goes, "You're being sued." You know, you're but you know what, John? I was like, "You're being sued by the disciplinary board over." Your relationship with clients, and you need to go down a Trooper Road and sit in this hearing. And they suggested you bring a lawyer with you. And I was like, and so here's the first thought I had was, wow, this is this is serious.
Yeah.
This is livelihood. I was not worried at all because I was like, that is why Christ visited me last night. Had to be
Wow.
because this is like the worst news in the world.
Yeah,
And this
that's like jumping out of the window kind of bad stuff.
No, it's horrific. And
Yeah.
um and so I wasn't afraid at all. I was like, you know what? This is going to be the opportunity for real change. Um
Well,
so needless to say that and so all of it the lawsuit was crap. It was crap. They had nothing on me. I'd done everything the right way.
mhm.
I crossed my T's, dotted my I's. It was all because of the previous lawyer. And here's the other thing I found out later. The lawyer that hired me Um, there was something to do with the previous lawyer's family member had been an attorney that worked there who was disgruntled and turned me into the disciplinary board because, she was pissed off over how she was treated. And needless to say, after paying my attorney who represented me about $40,000, the disciplinary board said, you know what, Ravenel, we got nothing on you. You're scot-free, free to go. So I opened up my own law firm. So now I'm opening up my own law firm. And um, we were fortunate. We just purchased another home, a little bit bigger than that, but everything else went wrong. Just like everything, like there was just a month where we were coming out of COVID. I'd been really sick.
The economy was wrecked.
Yeah, economy was
Totally wrecked.
wrecked. I had some clients that, had owed me a lot of money. Like, and there was there's one day where I'm on the phone with clients and guy owed me like $55,000. And he was like, not paying you. And another person owed me like 10 grand. And
Wow.
they're like, hey, thank you so much for your work, but we're not paying you. Sorry, times are hard, whatever. Like three clients. It was a lot. I was like, wow, I'm thinking I was kind of dependent on that money, to push my law firm forward this quarter. And and I was like, man, I'm thinking I am broke. And like the laundry, like the dryer's broken, the dog is sick. It was like live in a country western music song, so to speak. And then literally, John, my wife walks up the stairs and she's like, I'm pregnant.
Oh my
I'm not kidding.
God.
This really happened. This really happened. And I was like, wow. And so I'm thinking like it feels like the end of the world. And so that night, I had a dream. I was like, man, so then I'm like down on my luck. I'm like down, you know, I'm down like 500,000. If you took law school loans, mortgage, all of that together, it was like impossible to pay any of that back. And that night I had a dream that we should return to our old church that we went to in Philadelphia. And they'd kind of moved, it's about 35-minute drive from where we were. We're kind of up in the burbs, trying to get the kids in a better school. And I said, honey, do you want to go to church tomorrow? And she's like, yeah, let's go. So I drive down to City Life Church and and I had the dream, and in the dream that I'd had, prior to going down there, I saw my brother-in-law, who's also an attorney, very famous attorney here in Philadelphia. Um, he was up at the front, and he was sort of like giving, he was teaching something to the kids, and it was a very welcoming environment. And we'd been gone from that church for a few years. We joined another church. So it was different. It was a new church. It was our first time there, and it was big. It's a very welcoming place. Very, very diverse group of people because it was a new church. It was only about at that point, 2020. It's about 2020, 21 is about 8 years old. And it had started as a new church in 2012 in the middle of Philadelphia. And so, when you start a new church, you can get a diverse group of people to come to the church. So everybody's in there. There are, of course, there's Latinos, Koreans, a lot of black families, a lot of white families. Everybody's worshiping together. And I get there, we sit down and they have coffee. Um, and Pastor Brad starts going to the sermon. And the sermon was like every single issue I was going through financially in my life. The sermon was
Wow.
practical. It was about faith. It's about focus. It was about budgeting. It was about family. And normally I would take notes in the sermon, but it was so on point and it was so like serendipitous that I was just weeping. Like I was just like I was
Wow.
trying not to cry. Um, but the tears just kept coming down as I was hearing it and taking it all in. And end of the service, they said, if anybody needs prayer, and my brother-in-law, like he stood up at the front and I was like, I need prayer. So I go up and I start crying, start weeping. He prays over me. And so then I went home and I wrote this letter to Pastor Brad and I said, hey, that was a great sermon. I really appreciated that. That was really helpful. And I wrote all these terrible things that, well, not terrible, but challenging things I was going through. Um, just like everything that I told you before. But that was helpful and I felt like really upbeat. So I started to pray every day after that. I was like, I mean, we didn't have any money at the time. But I did actually start to tithe everything that was coming in. And, it wasn't, we didn't have enough. I mean, that's just the way it was. But I just kept in mind, the kind of Sermon on the Mount. I was like, Jesus had to feed 5,000 people. They gave him like, what is it, like 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish.
Yep.
He broke it off and he said, he basically prayed, hey, God, this isn't enough, but to
Yeah.
feed all these people, but thank you.
Yeah.
They it expanded. So I kind of kept that in mind. John, I was praying every day, like I'm talking, forehead to the floor type, knees on the ground, forehead to floor type prayer.
Mm.
Essentially the prayer was, I I can't make it now. My kids aren't going to college. This is the end of the Ravenel line unless you intercede for me. And I would visualize. And so eventually the prayer, honestly, it became, I had this, like I'd visualize like this pit, and so eventually it's like as I was praying, I had this vision of this falling in this pit. But at first, and I fell in this pit and it feels like I'm just dropping forever and I'm never going to get out. But I would always look up at some point, and I wasn't that far down. I was like, okay, I felt like I was falling forever, like it was the end of the world, but I'm not that far down. And I would come up, and eventually I would start praying, um, like from the top of the mountain, and I feel myself like just filling up this pit, like the debt, the frustration, whatever. Like it's all being filled. And then, sure enough, I kept tithing, I kept going to church. Um, Bit by bit, I started getting in new clients, and you know, the business started to pick up. Um, and eventually, I got in like some really influent clients, and um, and eventually, like unbeknownst to everybody, because I didn't tell anybody, I ended up paying off all my debt, like my
Wow.
student loans,
Wow.
mortgage,
Wow.